About a week ago, I put out a video called The Trials and Tribulations of the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, looking at their history, some of the things that they'd gone through, whether they were staying the course and just battling things out to finally reap the rewards that they earned. And I showed that last year, the Nuggets performed a gentleman's sweep against the Timberwolves in the first round. And a week ago, you didn't know what was going to happen in this series, but I asked the question, what should the Timberwolves do next year if they lose? What should Denver do next year if Denver loses? In many ways, that video aged very well because the Timberwolves did, in fact, overcome last year's hump. They got over that hump. So how did they do that? By blowing things up and spending the organization's assets in the off season and getting rid of everybody and starting all over? No. They powered through, and the next year it all came together for them. Denver, this is where I'm asking a question of you guys. Today's video is basically about asking you guys a question. What about Denver? Denver paid their dues. Denver won a championship. In some ways, you could say, okay, it was a good story. Maybe it's a little bit unrealistic to think that you should go back to back. A lot of people talk about how hard it is to be repeat champions. The thing is, watching the Nuggets play, I watched the entire game, was painful. It was almost a sense of relief to know that they weren't going to the next round because of how poorly most of the players were playing. Like, some people are giving Jamal Murray compliments for his performance last night. When I was watching, I dreaded seeing him handle the ball. Most of the game, I was just like, can someone else take a shot? Everything was being fed through Jokic. And the poor guy just must have been exhausted. And even when Jokic would feed the ball back out, they would send it back into him. And then eventually maybe someone would take another shot and very rarely actually make another shot. And, Jokic didn't have a particularly good game, but he's being praised for his performance, which just shows that on paper, maybe it's not as bad, but watching it, it didn't strike me as very good. Even when the Nuggets were up, you didn't feel that good. Or at least I didn't. And, for people to say that Jamal Murray had a good game because he had 35 points, that's not what it felt like when I was watching. I dreaded seeing the ball in his hands. 4 of 12 from 3. I can't believe he only had 4 turnovers. He looked like he was about to lose the ball the whole game in my mind, like just watching it. And amazingly enough, Jokic had an even lower percentage than Murray. So it's interesting that we praise professionals for being anywhere near 50%. It's not just them, but across the board. And I'm not even going to bother talking about the rest of the team because they did not exist. So here's the crossroads for me. On one hand, my previous video made a good point about staying the course and the Timberwolves persevering. On the other hand, I kind of think the Nuggets need to make some changes. You stayed the course and you persevered in the past, but that doesn't mean it's going to keep working going forward. The difference between, and of course I have to bring LeBron into this, that's what I do. With the Nuggets, you have a guy who is a solid core in Jokic, and you really do need to have a supporting cast. With the Lakers, you have a false core in LeBron James and keep saying that you need to build a better supporting cast, when in fact, you probably should keep the supporting cast and change the central focus of the organization. And again, I got tired watching Jokic. I got tired of seeing him be the center, the shooting guard, the point guard, all in the same game for almost every single minute of the game. And yes, I think the Nuggets need to make some changes. I don't want to see that. I didn't want to see that go into the next round. It was exhausting to watch. I'm not saying blow it up. I'm not saying blame Mike Malone, but when you had 6'2", 6'4", 6'5", even a 6'6" guy guarding a 7-footer, and you're okay with that, like that's the actual plan because you don't have an alternative, then you're not prepared for this series in terms of personnel. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns reminded me a little bit of LeBron James on the Lakers. He just abused the size advantage, which made Karl Anthony Towns look good, the way it makes LeBron James occasionally look good. So again, my question to you guys is, what would you do? How much do you put into loyalty? How much do you put into, we'll run it back next year? And how much do you say, if we run it back next year and face the Timberwolves, we're not going to have success with this roster? You know, you want me to be consistent. I talk about consistency a lot. I'll be consistent. Do not say Jamal Murray had a good game in the same context that people say LeBron James had a good game when you look at the point totals. I don't think Jamal Murray had a good game. I don't give a shit if he had 35 points. LeBron James gets 35 points all the time now and has shit games doing it. Anyway, I'm keeping this one short. This is a video where I want to know what you think. You know, how does this stack up in terms of loyalty, staying the course, and when it's time to change? And did the video I made originally age well? Does this support what I was saying in that, or did it not age well? What would you do? How do you feel about it if this was your franchise? You can apply that to the Timberwolves also. You know, Anthony Edwards did not have a good game, but the Denver roster didn't have any answer for the rest of the team when you shut down Anthony Edwards. So Minnesota was that close from not making it past the second round. What would you have done in their case?